Hello everyone, and welcome to part 4 of the Ultimate Fortnite Iceberg. At this point, you know the drill. If you haven't watched the previous 3 parts, the playlist is on my channel, so you should check that out. Before we get started, I just wanted to plug my creator code. It's Ravecha, like the channel name. If you're watching this video, you're probably a Fortnite player, so this is a way to support me while you buy something for yourself. But of course, liking, commenting, subscribing, and watching this video is support enough. So without further ado, let's get to Layer 4. Power Up LTM. This was an LTM added on Day 9 of the 14 Days of Summer event back in 2019. This is actually one of the more interesting premises for an LTM. Here's the gist of it. In the first half of the game, your primary goal is to find as many shield potions as possible. This is because whenever you drink a shield potion, your max shield also increases by the amount of shield you drink. So if you drink a big pot, you get 50 shield, but your max shield increases to 150 shield. This effect stacks and is unlimited. Additionally, for the first half of the match, respawn is on and you keep your max shields. This already creates an interesting gameplay loop where your primary goal is to just drink as many shields as possible, even over eliminating other players or staying alive. Of course, spawns of shield items are boosted in this game mode. Then, around the halfway point of the match, respawn is turned off and the game is played as normal, with the max shields players get staying the same for the rest of the match. Like I said, this is a pretty unique and obscure entry in the roster of LTMs. Tag LTM. This is another LTM introduced in the 14 Days of Summer event. This is a big team game mode that has 2 teams, a red team and a blue team. The LTM is just a massive game of tag. The players on the red team are it, and the players on the blue team have to avoid them. There are no guns in the game, just mobility items like launch pads and impulses. Low gravity is also permanently on. If you're on the red team, you can tag somebody on the other team by hitting them with your pickaxe. Additionally, the location of all players is shown on the minimap via colored dots corresponding to the team of that player. This way, the blue team can't just try to hide somewhere out of the way. The red team wins if they tag everyone on the blue team, and the blue team wins if they have any players remaining at the end of the match. Splashdown LTM, yet another LTM which released during 14 Days of Summer. This game mode featured the exclusive water balloon item, which deals 10 damage if you throw it at someone. This is the only weapon in this game mode, with all the other items being mobility or utility, like glider redeploy or smoke bombs. Each player only has 30 health, which makes it easier for people to get eliminated. However, respawn is on, and the winner is determined by who reaches the elimination goal first. Foundation Statue Bunker. The Foundation Statue is one of the most recognizable landmarks of the Chapter 3 map. People were quick to notice that it was built on top of a bunker of sorts. There were doors at the base, but no way to get inside. So this is yet another Fortnite bunker mystery, like the doors in Chapter 1 and the Redacted in Chapter 2. However, unlike the other two, we never really got an in-game resolution to this, it was just left alone. It's possible that this concept art could be showing the inside of the bunker, except with the statue above removed. Maybe there was a scrapped event or something showing its total destruction, as it was only half destroyed in the game. But yeah, it doesn't look very interesting. It shows 7 pods charging. These are probably how the 7 travel around. While the location itself doesn't seem interesting from a gameplay perspective, it could have led to some interesting lore. But it feels like the entire story of Chapter 3 was scrapped for Chapter 4, which kind of sucks. Laser and Fresh's Super Knockback. This was a tournament themed around Fortnite creator Laserbeam on March 3rd, 2021. You would be allowed to play 10 games in a 3-hour time span. After these 10 matches, you can no longer play in the tournament. Your goal would be to get as many points possible in these 10 matches, and based on how you place, you would be rewarded with the Laserbeam skin, and even its entire set if you placed well enough. As the name suggests, the tournament revolved around knockback weapons, and included a new weapon called Lazar's Flight Lock, which was a flint knock with much greater knockback than the normal flint knock. You could also emote to regain health, and fall damage was non-existent in this playlist, apparently as a reference to a meme in Laserbeam videos where he says fall damage is vaulted. Kevin is Storm King. In the final boss of Save the World, you fight the Storm King. After beating him, he basically disappears into the lake beneath him, and right below where he used to be, you can unmistakably see a part of the cube sticking out of the lake. Of course, this led to many theories about the Storm King being Kevin. Maybe when Kevin appeared on the BR Island, it was initially intended to be a reincarnation of the Storm King in Battle Royale. However, we now know this doesn't match up with the lore. Or maybe it was just that the Storm King is a humanoid incarnation of the cube, since we know that the Cube Queen has both a cube form and a humanoid form. Save the World was invaded by the last reality. Kind of tying into the previous entry, we have another related theory that is actually kind of fun to imagine. And that is that Save the World was one of the realities taken over by the last reality. Think about it, what do we know about the last reality? They go from dimension to dimension, and they invade each of them by essentially terraforming the worlds so that the cube creatures thrive. And what happened in Save the World? One day a mysterious storm appeared, covering most of the planet and essentially killing 98% of the global population. This massive storm brought with it husks, who according to the BR lore are basically grunts of the last reality. Combine this with the previous connections with the cube, and it becomes clear that the Save the World planet was taken over by the last reality. Considering that Save the World used to be just a seemingly normal planet just with some advanced robotics, they were probably not equipped at all to handle the invasion of the last reality, allowing the last reality to take over easily, with only very few pockets of resistance remaining. It's likely that this theory would fall apart upon closer investigation, but I really do enjoy this recontextualization of Save the World. Rebranding it as one of the realities taken over by the Cube Legions is very cool. Fire Trap. The Fire Trap is one of the most obscure parts of Fortnite history. I am not sure how many people actually know this existed and was in the game. Introduced in Chapter 2 Season 4, like other traps, you would be able to place fire traps on structures like walls, floors, or ceilings. When an enemy walked in front of the trap, it would activate, dealing 50 damage. However, its main intention would be to start a fire, which would spread to all surrounding structures, dealing more damage. However, despite being a novel idea and concept, it wasn't that great in execution. The original traps were good because they were a quick burst of surprise damage that could catch people off guard for easy kills in the early game, or as a way to punish opponents for entering your box. However, the fire trap didn't do enough damage to fulfill this role, and while the fire spread was a neat idea, it wasn't reliable, and it made it bad to use in your own box, since you would be burning your own structure down. Also, fire spread doesn't care who started it, so someone else triggering the fire trap while you're nearby would still damage you with the fire spread. In basically every way, the fire trap was outclassed by the simple firefly jar. So like the poison dart trap before it, the fire trap fell into obscurity, being unceremoniously removed from the game in Chapter 2 Season 5, and only being added in creative in Chapter 5 Season 1. It's a shame that traps have basically fallen out of favor with both the community and Epic themselves, considering how integral they were to the early identity of the game. Raptor's Claw. This is an item that was part of the Impossible Escape LTM, an unusual LTM where you can work together with other people to fix a chopper and escape the island. As part of a quest to have an NPC reveal the locations of some chopper parts, you would need to give the NPC a Raptor's Claw. You would obtain the item by killing an entire pack of raptors. So yeah, it's a bit obscure because not a lot of people even know about the Impossible Escape LTM. However, what I find bizarre is the rumor that this item was only in the game for 27 minutes. You see this being stated in a bunch of articles, yet this is a blatantly false statement. The Raptor's Claw was in the game basically the same amount of time the LTM was, which was several days. However, I do think I was able to find the origin of this misinformation. There was a Cypher PK video titled "This Was in Fortnite for 27 Minutes, where he talks about obscure items in the game. Of course, the title was referring to the Eye of the Storm tracker, which if you watched the previous parts of this iceberg, you would know was removed very quickly, 27 minutes. However, in the same video he talks about the Raptor's Claw, so there's probably some game journalist who misremembered the details of the video, or used some generative software which incorrectly summarized the video, and then published it without actually verifying it. Then a bunch of other articles using this article as a source would repost that same information until it became a popular quote-unquote fun fact, even though it's just wrong. Pretty sad to see how easily misinformation can be spread, and it just goes to show how diligent you should be in verifying sources. Even I struggle with this sometimes. Season Recaps. Starting in Chapter 1 Season 6 and ending in Chapter 1 Season 9, Epic would send out personalized recap videos at the end of every season to people who had the Battle Pass leveled up to at least level 20. The recaps would talk about some various stats during the season, from match stats to cosmetic stats. It would tell you stuff like how many wins you got over the season, what your most used skin and emote was, what your most preferred weapon was, which location you dropped at the most, you get the gist. Text would show up with the information, and it would be interspersed by vaguely related stock Fortnite clips. The video would then end with a quick ad for the next season. You would be able to access these recaps on the Fortnite website itself by logging on fortnite.com/video-recap. Unfortunately, this did not last long, only available for Chapter 1, Seasons 6 through 9, and the aforementioned website is no longer available, meaning that even if you got a personalized recap, you can't access them anymore. While this is very cool, I can see why they removed it, since it may have been too much effort to put together for all those people, especially when most would just be indifferent to it. Would not complain if it comes back though. Elim icon change. This is referring to how the icon which counts your eliminations in your HUD was changed. It used to be the skull, but now it's a crosshair. This change happened in Chapter 1 Season 5, and may have been to make the game more child-friendly, to emphasize that we were just eliminating people, not killing them. It could have also been a change meant for making the game more China-friendly, as we know that depictions of skulls are a big no-no for video games there. Block Party. This was a 2-day event in summer of 2019, which was actually an in-person event at the Forum in Los Angeles. Here, several famous Fortnite streamers, as well as actual celebrities, would play in tournaments, live in front of thousands of spectators. There were 2 events, a Celebrity Pro-Am, which was a more typical Fortnite tournament, and a special Creative Showdown tournament which featured a custom map and a game mode made in Creative. The event was to just kind of gloat the massive rise of the game's popularity and prevalence in pop culture over the previous 2 years, and it's notable in the game's history for not only being a massive in-person event, but also being one of the first times Creative was given a major spot in the spotlight. Leaked Chapter 3. Of course, anyone in the Fortnite community is no stranger to leaks. However, one of the most prominent leaks came right before Chapter 3. With the new chapter coming out, Epic was especially careful with leaks, going so far as to ask leakers not to reveal anything, since normally they do tolerate leakers. But this effort would be futile as the Battle Pass trailer for Chapter 3 Season 1 would leak. And I'm also pretty sure this was due to an accidental upload by the official Fortnite Polish YouTube channel. So in the end, the leak came from Epic themselves, basically, not the community. This came out a couple days before the chapter itself launched, and it revealed so much. It showed the new sliding mechanics, the new Unreal Engine 5 graphics and physics, features like tents, grappling, slurp kegs, and crowns, as well as all the new skins and the map of the season. Probably one of the biggest leaks in Fortnite history, and there's even more which we will cover later. Galactus skin. Those who played Chapter 2 Season 4 know that the entire season revolved around stopping the Marvel villain Galactus from destroying the island. However, despite his prominence in the story, he never ended up getting a skin, not in the Battle Pass of the season, nor in the item shop in the years since. We would know what a skin would end up looking like, since the model used for the event is just a scaled up version of an in-game skin model which we can access. People are kind of baffled as to why the skin hasn't ever released, with some citing the massive helmet as a reason, since it would be way too big on players' screens. Revive Grenade. This is an item exclusive to the Bodyguard LTM from Chapter 2 Season 5. In this game mode, one member of the team would be chosen as a VIP, while the remaining team members, the number of which depending on the playlist, would be the bodyguards. A team would win if they eliminate all the other team's VIPs. The VIPs are vulnerable, as they only have a gold pistol and can't use any other weapons, and if they die, the entire team dies, so it's really up to the bodyguards to protect the VIP. However, the VIPs could also support their team, as they each got a legendary Revive Grenade item. This item would immediately revive a downed player and restore them to 100 health. It's locked to the inventories of the VIPs and cannot be given to other people. It would revive all teammates near where it lands after being thrown, and if there are multiple downed teammates near that one area, it would revive them all at once. The grenade had infinite uses, but you would need to wait at least 20 seconds in between each use. Yeeting players. This isn't just a humorous title, but rather what it's actually called in-game. In Chapter 2, you would be able to pick up enemy players you downed and then throw them, or yeet them. This was showcased in a challenge to yeet players to deal fall damage, as well as an achievement called Nice to Yeet You, where you would finish off a downed person by yeeting them off a high place. I know Fortnite's player base is younger and would likely get this joke or understand the slang, but I can't help but wonder if there were older players who didn't know the term and were completely confused when reading the challenge. Water Storm. During the Chapter 2 Season 2 event, Midas attempted to escape from the loop by breaking the storm. While he succeeded in breaking the storm, it would be replaced by a massive wall of water as a temporary band-aid to keep the loop functioning. This change would be reflected in the gameplay for the rest of the season, as the in-game storm would be replaced by the wall of water. While the storm was water, if you were in the storm it would still damage you. This is relevant in the rare scenario where you are actually above the water. For example, if you're standing on the peak of Mount K, the water storm would actually pass by below you. so the storm itself would still need to exist to avoid that, or as a failsafe against people flying above it in choppers. Also, the water wall had a fun mechanic which would allow you to swim really fast once caught inside of it, so you can make it to the circle. However, this wasn't a free get out of storm ticket, since the more you swam, the more you would float to the top, and once you exited the storm, you would fall down to your death. So this actually made the storm more deadly, as if you spent too much time in it, you were guaranteed to fall to your death upon exiting, unless you're able to land on something that mitigates fall damage. Also, just visually speaking, the water wall was awesome. Seeing this massive wall of water surrounding you was awe-inspiring, and you could even see fish and sharks swimming around in it. It would also result in this really cool lighting effect where it would diffuse light passing through it and create this rippling pattern on the land nearby. The effect was very noticeable in the late game, where the storm would essentially be completely surrounding you and the safe zone would be all dark, with only some rippling light passing through. It's a shame the wall of water was only in the game for a short amount of time, and I really wish that it or something similar would come back as a gimmick for a season. Scrapped Victory Royale signs. Everyone who plays Fortnite knows of the iconic Victory Royale sign that pops up when you get a win. Originally, it was a simple, boxy banner that would pop up with no animation as soon as you got the win. However, it would later be changed to a more polished and dynamic design, which was accompanied by a nice slow-mo and some animations when you get a win. However, there were much more designs that weren't used. Brian Rathman, who used to be a UI designer at Epic Games, created these concepts for Victory Royale signs. While it looks like the basic number 1 Victory Royale signs are just variations of the final design we got in-game, the last 3 beg more interest. These seem to be custom Victory Royale signs for a 50v50 team victory, a generic big team victory, and a weirdly vaporwave design for a Victory Royale. It's pretty obvious what the team victory signs would be used for, big team modes like 50v50 or Team Rumble, though I'm not sure what the vaporwave design would be used for. Maybe it was just a more custom design that the artist thought looked cool. While Epic may have only chosen to use one sign across all game modes for the sake of simplicity, I don't think anyone would complain about seeing more custom signs across different game modes, and even stylized Victory Royale signs to fit the theme of the season. Giant Teddy Bear. Near Paradise Palms in Chapter 1, hidden within one of those 1x1 shacks, you could find a giant teddy bear, just barely able to fit inside the shack. Nothing much more than that, just a fun Easter egg. Pump Sniper. For just one day back in early Chapter 1, the pump shotgun was affected by a bug that made it completely overpowered. Those who use shotguns in the game know how they work. They have a large spread size of bullets, but have an extremely short fall-off, meaning that you can only use them effectively against opponents who are very close to you. However, for that one day, for some reason, bullet fall-off wasn't calculated for the shotguns. This meant that shotguns basically had the same range as snipers. This, combined with the fact that shotgun spread was so wide, made shotguns incredibly overpowered. You would basically just have to get a faraway opponent inside the massive square reticle, and you would be able to deal big damage with very little aiming required. An incredibly game-breaking bug, no wonder this was patched immediately. Fork Knife Death Zone. The Fork Knife is a landmark located near Fatal Fields in the Chapter 1 map, taking the shape of a fork and knife-shaped hole in the ground. However, in Chapter 1 Season 8, this landmark would be home to a baffling bug where even stepping foot inside the landmark would result in instant death. The area was quickly dubbed the Fork Knife Death Zone, and many players would go there to check out the auto-kill zone for themselves. What supposedly happened was, for some reason, the game thought the landmark was a part of the ocean, which if you remember would instantly kill you if you stepped in it back in Chapter 1. Of course, Epic fixed it as fast as possible, but while the bug was still up, it led to some funny reactions of people who didn't know about the bug, or from players who dropped loot in the landmark as a bait to lure other, unknowing players into the death zone. I guess this incident really allowed Fatal Fields to live up to its name. Deaf Loopers. This was an older theory based on the one line Jones said during the Chapter 2 Season 2 event. "Can you hear me?" Jones's surprise at seeing a looper apparently able to hear him led some people to come up with a theory that loopers are deaf. However, this isn't true. It would later turn out that loopers are actually mute and unable to communicate or understand with each other, which is why Jonesy was surprised someone could understand his English. 0 Point different looks. Of course, over the course of the game's history, the 0 Point has had many different looks. This is due to overall design changes, as well as changes in the 0 Point itself due to story events. I'm not going to go through all the changes here, but I will show some of the visual changes it went through. Chaos Slurp Experiments. The Slurp Legends pack was a skin pack we got in Chapter 2 Season 2. It consisted of 3 skins that wore black clothing and were made up of this slurp liquid, like Ripley. Well, with the trailer released to advertise this pack, we actually got a bit of a story to these skins. They weren't born as these slurp creatures, but were instead just normal humans. Well, except for Leviathan, who's not really a human, but a normal creature, not slurp. They all underwent a transformation into slurp, and keen-eyed viewers would notice that the one conducting this experiment was Chaos Agent, who at the end celebrated as the experiment was a success. This actually ties into the larger story. In Chapter 2 Season 1, Chaos Agent created these creatures called Sludges, evil clones of Ripley, who he would use as soldiers and labor for Shadow. Considering he knew that Ripley was made of slurp, he probably wanted to experiment to try and create more slurp creatures. These experiments culminated in the Slurp Legends, a group of more advanced and intelligent slurp soldiers. Rigged Unvaulting. The Unvaulting was an event in Chapter 1 Season 6. During the event, players could vote on an old item to bring back to the game by pickaxing the item within the vault. The 6 options were the Drum Gun, Bouncers, Planes, TAC SMG, the Infinity Sword, and Grappler. The Drum Gun won by a pretty large margin, and would be added into the game immediately after the event. Like, you could get it later in the same game if I remember it correctly. However, immediately after the event, there were a bunch of posts claiming that the event was rigged. There were 2 lines of thinking that led to this conclusion. 1. At that point in time, the drum gun was incredibly hated by the community, and there was no way it could win the vote. 2. Both the Planes and the Infinity Blade were incredibly powerful, and Epic would not have allowed them to come back into the game since either coming back would quickly turn the meta upside down. However, there are reasonable answers to these arguments. 1. The vocal part of the community is a minority of the actual player base of the game, like less than 1%. It's possible that the majority of the community didn't feel as poorly about the drum gun as those who actually posted online about it. 2nd, the drum gun was reintroduced into the game much more nerfed than its original appearance. It's likely that if the Planes or the Sword came back, they would have also been nerfed too. I wouldn't be surprised if it came out that it was rigged somehow, but as of right now I don't see a reason why they would do it. Fox Clan. The Fox Clan is another faction in the Fortnite lore, yet is less known despite having some very popular skins be a part of it. This is because they are basically completely irrelevant, only acting as a way to group together skins with similar design elements. They're a group of hunters from various origins who all join this one group to further hone their hunting and rift powers, while being taught and guarded by the Kitsune spirits. To honor these spirits, the Fox Clan wear Kitsune masks, which is how they can be identified. They became one of the major groups of interest fighting for control of Mega City, and are rivals with the River Guard. We know of several members, of course the original Drift, his gender-bent version Catalyst, a veteran of the Fox Clan named V, a digital avatar named Vox Hunter, and a dude named Stray. He used to be a member of the River Guard, and is actually the brother of their Empress Mizuki, but would defect to the Fox Clan. We can assume that reskins and snapshots of Drift are also members of the Fox Clan, although this isn't confirmed. We also got to see the Guardian Kitsune spirits in-game, one in a fully animal form, and one in an anthropomorphic form named Kimiko Fivetails. So yeah, this is the god watching over the elite group of rift-powered assassins. IO War Crimes. Of course, being one of the main villains of the Fortnite story, the IO are responsible for many crimes. Let's take a look at the first few war crimes as defined by the United Nations and see how many the IO breaks. Willful killing. Torture or inhuman treatment, including biological experiments, willfully causing great suffering or serious injury to body or health, extensive destruction and appropriation of property, not justified by military necessity and carried out unlawfully and wantonly, compelling a prisoner of war or other protected persons to serve in the forces of a hostile power, willfully depriving a prisoner of war or other protected person of the rights of a fair and regular trial, taking of hostages. Yeah, it looks like the IO basically checks off everything there. Time to send them a strongly worded letter. Upgrade Bench Item. Longtime Fortnite players may remember the Upgrade Bench, as it has been in and out of the game over the past few years. Usually it's a static part of the map, however in Chapter 2 Season 3, it was turned into an item which you can hold in your inventory. You would be able to pick it up and throw it down to spawn an upgrade bench that you could use. You could also break it, as well as break naturally spawning upgrade benches to drop them as an item. While it seems like it could be convenient, there really wasn't a reason to carry one around with you, and would only be useful to immediately throw down and use it, so it would just end up cluttering the loot pool, which is why this change will be reverted in Chapter 2 Season 4. Visitor Volta. When Chapter 1 Season X came out, people were excited by the remixed skins in the Battle Pass. There was speculation about what the secret skin could be, and many people correctly assumed it would be the remix of the most famous secret skin at that point, the Visitor. Of course, they were right, and the secret skin was a remixed Visitor. However, while we now know him as the Scientist, the skin was leaked under the name Visitor Volta. Volta is an Italian word meaning change, so many people took the name to mean changed visitor. However, later the name was changed to the Scientist, meaning Visitor Volta was probably just a placeholder name, or a name from before Epic decided on the naming conventions of the Seven. UFO abductions. At the end of Chapter 2 Season 6, players would randomly get abducted by aliens and then dropped off at other random points on the map with full health and shield. This was teasing the alien invasion theme for the next season, as well as a more fleshed out abduction mechanic that would come with it. I wish Fortnite would do more of these random mini-story events more often. Simulation theory. This was an older theory about the story of the game, and it had several phases, so to speak. In Chapter 1, this theory stated that Battle Royale was just a simulation in the world of Save the World game mode, a way for the survivors of the storm to practice your combat skills. The main piece of evidence for this was the drone that appears above your head when you're eliminated, which seems to turn you into a blue hologram of sorts before disappearing. This seems like pretty obvious evidence for a simulation theory, but to be honest, it's just a reused asset from Save the World, and Epic never changed it, since it provides a good way to show eliminated players without having a body drop dead or something. However, this theory would explode in popularity after the Chapter 2 Season 2 live event, which built a new narrative. The idea was similar, that the Battle Royale gameplay loop was a simulation of sorts. However, the event was Midas trying to escape the simulation into the real world, which we saw during the parts of the event where we were in Jones's office, as that was in first person and had voice acting. Another piece of evidence was that Jones's computer had a live feed of the event at the agency, an angle which would seemingly be impossible, except if it was a constantly monitored simulation inside of a computer. Also, if you look at the clock in the wall of the office, each time we go back, the clock moves forward by large amounts of time, possibly meaning that the time in the simulation and the time in the real world pass differently. Honestly, not the worst theory, although I was never a big fan of it. Crew Season Connection. This is another older theory from the first few months of Fortnite Crew. This theory stated that each crew skin corresponds to a season of Fortnite, and they would advance in consecutive order starting with Chapter 1 Season 3. As more crew skins came out, this theory started to get stronger until a pretty sharp cutoff showed that it never was actually real. Let's go over the connections. The first crew skin, Galaxia, is a space-themed skin and matches the space theme of Chapter 1 Season 3. After that is Green Arrow, who matches the superhero theme of Season 4. Next is Vi, a member of the Fox clan, who has a connection to a major skin from Season 5, Drift. Next is Lombro, who was similar to a skin from the Season 6 Battle Pass, Giddy Up. They were both llama costumes essentially. After that is Ally, who has a connection to the Season 7 Battle Pass skin, Lynx. Next is Deimos, and the connection here was that he was kind of a ninja-like skin with a death motif, and basically had that classical adventure feel, which matched Season 8's skins like Hybrid and Blackheart. And then there was a strong connection with Mecha Cuddle Master, who matched Season 9's futuristic theme perfectly. After that, we got Loki, who was released around the same time as the premiere of the Loki TV show, and people connected that with Season X, since both that season and the Loki show heavily featured different realities and variants of characters. However, after that, the connections drop off. Summer Sky has no connection to Chapter 2 Season 1, and after that we got the 3 Burning Shadows skins consecutively, which didn't have connections to the following seasons, so the theory quickly fell apart after that. Honestly, I can see why people would believe it, but to be honest, some of the connections we previously mentioned were massive stretches, and keeping this connection going would only limit the creativity of the crew pack skins, and, we'd run out of seasons anyway, so it's probably a good thing this theory isn't true. Shadowstone glitches. The Shadowstone is a consumable in the game which allows players to turn into a shadow form for 45 seconds. While in this form they couldn't use weapons, but would mostly be invisible and have better mobility, including faster movement, infinite jumping, and no fall damage. They appeared twice in Fortnite's history, in Chapter 1 Season 6 and Chapter 2 Season 8. However, both times they were added in, they were subject to some game-breaking bugs. In Season 6 there was a glitch where if you respawn at the same exact time you use the Shadowstone, you would have permanent invisibility after respawn. In Chapter 2 Season 8, there were multiple bugs that allowed you to use your pickaxes or even weapons while in the shadow form, which of course is game breaking. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. These shadow stones were so buggy they would be constantly removed from the game to be patched up. They've gained a reputation for their bugginess in the community, and I'm sure people will find more bugs if they're ever at it again. Brute bugged intentionally. The Brute was an overpowered mech added in Season X of the game. While there were several bugs throughout the season, there was one near the end of the season which puzzled players. When brutes would drop down from the sky, they would explode immediately upon impacting with the ground, not allowing players to use them. Well, this would happen all the time, and the players looked to Epic to fix this game-breaking bug. However, Epic didn't, and clues point to this being intentional. First of all, the fact that Epic didn't say anything about the supposed bug was already suspicious, as they're usually on top of them and will notify the community they're working on a fix as soon as a bug is discovered. Also, all challenges involving brutes were auto-completed, meaning that Epic didn't intend for brutes to be usable anymore. And finally, inside the scientist's headquarters at Dusty Depot, we saw this on a screen, a virus infecting the brutes. So it's clear that the brutes exploding on impact was not a bug in the game, but actually a part of the story. They weren't technically bugged, but the fact that they were bugged was due to the actions of the in-game characters. Geno is the father of Imagined and Order. Geno is the big bad of the Fortnite story, and he's also the dad of two of the members of the Seven, twin sisters, the Imagined and the Order. Since Geno is a genetic scientist obsessed with purity, his daughters were also genetically engineered to be perfect humans. His relationship with them is complicated, as his daughters obviously don't like him considering they fight against him, but Geno himself still seems to somewhat care about them, as he shows them mercy even when fighting them. There's probably more to explain with their relationship, but I highly doubt Epic will pick that storyline back up anytime soon. Leprechaun skin. Back in 2019, there was a male leprechaun skin shown in art for a featured creative island. However, this skin is not in the game in any form. Like, it's not even a hero in Save the World that they use for promotional material. It's just straight up a character that does not exist outside of this one piece of art. I'm not sure if this was a planned skin but was scrapped, or if some dude just made a male leprechaun character just for this piece. A strange situation all around. Chapter 2 Season 2 phone numbers. In order to tease Chapter 2 Season 2, Epic put up these real-world posters across the world. The posters were simple, just the word Fortnite with a golden handprint and some redacted words. However, each poster would have a phone number, which when called would recite some pre-recorded lines. All of the lines were essentially about activating agents for operations, further teasing the spy theme of the next season. Collab items and creative. Over the years, Fortnite has had a myriad of items and weapons added to the game as part of collaborations. However, out of all of these items, a total number of 0 would be available to use in creative mode. In fact, Epic is very diligent about these items not being in creative whatsoever, and will go the extra length of removing these items from the game files after the collab period ends to ensure this. This is most likely because the contracts made with the owners of the IP forbid this from happening, since creative provides much more freedom than Battle Royale on how you can use these items. While some people think that this is so players don't do controversial things with the items, this doesn't make sense since you can use skins in creative, and do controversial things with those collab skins. No, it's because companies don't want the fans to create their own games with the collab items within Fortnite. For example, if the lightsabers, Force Mythic, and Stormtrooper blasters were added to creative, it would be so easy for players to make a fleshed out custom game mode with the Star Wars stuff. In that case, a lot of people wouldn't want to buy an official Star Wars game like Battlefront, since why would you spend $30 to $60 on those games when you can get a very similar experience for free in Fortnite? If the collab items are restricted to Battle Royale, they could only be used in that context, and can't be used to replace the experience of the official games of the IP. This is why collab items are unlikely to come to Fortnite Creative. However, considering that Fortnite just seems to be encroaching more and more into pop culture, and also that they seem to be experimenting more with different genres of games, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see officially sanctioned game modes with these collab items. I mean, Disney and Fortnite announced a huge partnership. I wouldn't be surprised if Disney's properties like Marvel or Star Wars will just start putting their games in Fortnite. Blackheart Drowned. The Blackheart skin from Season 8 is a progression-based skin, meaning that you can unlock more styles the more you level up during the season. However, the progression of styles tells a story. Blackheart's base style is of him as a new, low-ranked sailor. The next two styles show him becoming a more experienced sailor, but suddenly he becomes a skeleton, with the clothes and flesh rotted away and his body covered in seaweed. The obvious implication here is that he drowned and his body was left to decompose at the bottom of the ocean. Blacklisted shop items. Fortnite does not officially have any blacklisted shop items. Technically, any item shop skin can come back at any time. However, this hasn't stopped players from realizing that some skins haven't returned to the shop in a really long time, and that there's probably a reason why Epic didn't want them back. For the longest time, the Plague Doctor set was part of these blacklisted items. Players noticed that they stopped getting put in the item shop around 2020, even during Halloween when they would usually come out as part of Fortnitemares. Obviously, this was due to an actual plague devastating the world at the time, and I'm sure Epic didn't want to invoke anything that could be related to the pandemic. However, after a couple of years, they would return back to the shop, probably because most considered the pandemic to be over by that time. Another blacklisted set is the Travis Scott set. While many Icon series skins return to the shop somewhat regularly, Travis Scott has been nowhere to be seen for the past few years. This was likely due to the Astroworld crowd crush of 2021, where unsafe conditions alongside an agitated crowd led to the deaths of multiple people. This is already horrific, but many people blamed Scott himself, as his behavior and apathy as the disaster was unfolding was inexcusable. Considering that the Travis Scott collaboration was made specifically with the Astroworld Festival in mind, it's no wonder why Fortnite isn't going to touch it again. The most infamous example of a blacklisted skin is the Rue skin. Straight off the bat, you can see how the skin got into controversy, as many people pointed out she would look right at home with a certain political group from the 1930s and 40s. The Shadow Skull insignia on her shoulder isn't helping matters too. However, most of the discussion was just jokes, as I doubt anyone was actually seriously offended. In fact, you would see more people talk about how they liked the skin's sleek and clean look. However, according to Leaper Hypex, Epic was apparently made aware that many in the community compared the skins to that certain real-world group, which is why it never returned afterwards, to many's dismay, and it's unlikely that they're ever going to touch it again. When LEGO Fortnite was added to the game recently, Rue was the only non-collab Fortnite skin to not get a LEGO version upon initial release, instead staying as a default LEGO skin. However, she did recently get a LEGO style, leading some people to think that she could be returning to the shop soon. Jones X Foundation. Getting some tonal whiplash here, but this entry is referring to a popular ship in the Fortnite community, which is between John Jones and the Foundation. Honestly, I can't knock it. Enemies to lovers is a common romance trope, and the two have a fun dynamic that leads to a pretty epic bromance if I say so myself. However, it's funny that I find this ship less ridiculous when the Foundation is in his fully armored form, because any art of them with his helmet off just shows Dwayne Johnson, which I can't take seriously at all at that point. Mjolnir Delay. Thor's hammer, or Mjolnir, was first introduced as a pickaxe in Chapter 2 Season 4. However, players were quick to notice that when pulling out the tool, it had a delay before he could start swinging. It was just by a fraction of a second, but it was very noticeable compared to normal pickaxes and just felt wrong. Additionally, in the competitive scene, when taking walls with your pickaxe is essential to fighting, this made Mjolnir borderline unusable. The issue was likely due to the animation taking a little bit longer, as other pickaxes with the same animation, like the Forsaken Strike, also suffered the same delay. However, this issue would be fixed quickly by the next update. Similar slight delays can be found in some pickaxes to this day. Janice. In the Chapter 2 Season 2 live event, Jones is speaking to a person named Janice. While we couldn't directly see her in the event, a behind-the-scenes look finds that Janice is actually the real name of the Envoy skin. Well, that's the fun explanation. If you want to be a party pooper, the Envoy skin was just used as a background model for the event, since she's a female skin wearing formal clothes, just like how the John Wick skin was used as a background male model since he wears a suit. So we don't actually know if this is what Janice looks like, but there's nothing concrete saying it's not. Fishstick is dead. Fishstick, the original Fishstick, not any of his reskins or snapshots, is permanently dead. This happens in the Batman 0 Point comics, where he's killed by Deathstroke in a somewhat gruesome scene. Of course, this quickly became a meme image spread around the internet. Rest in peace to a real one. Chapter 2 End Event Leak. We talked about the Chapter 3 leak earlier, but there was another massive leak regarding the Chapter 2 End Event. Once again, the culprit was Fortnite Poland, although they leaked it through their TikTok page this time. This TikTok started with the Eagle crew looking over the Chapter 2 Season 1 map, before cutting to interspersed clips of the upcoming events. Then, the last 15 seconds are one shot of the island flipping over and the grand finale of the event. So yeah, some pretty big spoilers for a leak. Fortnite Poland needs to get their stuff together. Dead maps. This is referring to the numerous amounts of creative maps with little or no players on them. Recently, there's been a lot of interest in exploring abandoned gaming spaces, servers from abandoned games years or decades ago. Well, you can do this in Fortnite too. While it doesn't have the age yet, there's still a bunch of abandoned, empty creative maps to just walk around in, if you can find them. No doubt in 5 or 10 years, once the late early 10s, early 2020s Fortnite becomes nostalgic, there will be videos exploring the old classic creative maps. In fact, they already exist. A YouTuber called Dreamscape made a video where he revisited some creative maps that used to be really popular, but are now completely dead. Check it out, it's really cool. Gunner. The state of the item shop in early Chapter 5 is a mess. The skins themselves are bland and barely change, while Epic seems more focused on selling overpriced cars, instruments, songs, and LEGO sets of all things. However, despite the controversy surrounding the current item shop, Epic really hasn't walked back on these items. This was not the case for an earlier controversial item shop edition, though. On August 14, 2019, the world was introduced to the glory of Gunner, a pet sold in the item shop for 1,000 V-Bucks. This was a dog in a carrier wearing a yellow ski mask. Now, people clowned on Epic for releasing this. Pets were already not that popular, so to sell one in the item shop for essentially $10 was ridiculous. Even more ridiculous is the fact that in a battle pass, which you could buy for 950 V-Bucks, you could earn a pet named Bonesy, who looks identical to Gunner. In fact, Bonesy is just straight up better since it has multiple styles with different colors. So Epic was selling an inferior version of Bonesy for a price that's more expensive than the entire battle pass. Like, selling a reskinned pet for 1,000 V-Bucks is already egregious, but I'm not sure why they made it look so similar to Bonesy. The carrier is the exact same, the fur color is the exact same, the only differences are the yellow mask that barely stands out, the logo on the bandana, and the blue eyes. Yeah, they deserve the hate they got for this. That very same day, just a couple hours later, the official Fortnite account tweeted this: "We should not have released the Gunner pet and apologize for doing so. Within the next couple of days, all purchases of Gunner will be refunded for the full amount of 1,000 V-Bucks, as well as an additional 200 V-Bucks, and the pet will be removed from the locker." In Fortnite history, there has never been a cosmetic this bad. Not only did Epic remove it from the game entirely and refund people, they straight up paid additional money to the people who bought it as an apology. Liminal space. With liminal spaces growing in popularity over the past couple years, many people have been finding or recreating them in video games. Fortnite is no exception. This includes people posting screenshots from Battle Royale that fit the definition. Also, there have been recreations of famous liminal spaces in creative maps. I will also present you with this image. This is the first ever screenshot taken of Fortnite, taken from an alpha build back when the game was supposed to be a gritty survival horror. While it may not perfectly fit the definition of liminal space, it's close enough, and definitely fills you with an eerie feeling. I still can't believe that this is the same game that would eventually have Peter Griffin singing Lady Gaga songs. Save the World traps in creative. One of the rare things Fortnite Save the World has that Fortnite's VR modes don't are the variety of traps. However, Save the World lost this even when Reddit user In Defense of Boney made a post on the Fortnite Creative subreddit, showcasing his recreation of basically every Save the World trap within Fortnite Creative. There have also been other Creative Mode players who have recreated Save the World traps in Creative. They look almost identical to the originals, and they have functionality too. Maybe in the future we'll have fans updating Save the Worlds themselves as a Fortnite Creative game mode. 9/11 recreations. Now, going from some fun recreations to some not so fun ones, we have 9/11 recreation maps in Fortnite. Now, as with any game that allows users to build freely, Fortnite has had players recreate the World Trade Center in the game. Now, from a basic Google search, the highest quality maps usually tend to be recreations of just the old World Trade Center, not of the attack itself. The maps were made with respect and aim to be an accurate model of the Twin Towers and WTC Plaza, and these are seriously impressive. However, it doesn't take too much more digging to find people who don't take the subject as seriously and have videos or maps meant to recreate the event itself. Usually this tends to be lower quality, as someone who actually respects the history enough to recreate the WTC accurately isn't going to make a joke of it. However, I'm not going to get into the debate of how far you can take jokes about the event, but making an entire map or video dedicated to it may be a little bit too far. However, I'm sure many people have joked about flying X-Force Stormwings into Tilted Towers. Rainbow Royale. This was a sort of event starting in July of 2021 celebrating the LGBTQIA+ members of the Fortnite community. It would return in August of 2022 and 2023, and is likely to return every year. The event would be most visibly marked by free cosmetics in the item shop, such as wraps, emotes, and sprays. Future iterations of the event would also include stuff like tournaments and purchasable cosmetics. The event wasn't just cosmetics though, as stuff like rainbow flags would be added to the creative as props, and music from LGBT artists would be featured in the in-game radio. Rainbow Royale is part of a larger Pride celebration that encompassed all of Epic, and it is praised, especially the 2021 iteration, for being an example of a company doing Pride correctly, albeit with some minor cynicism and nitpicking. It's not just changing the logo to a rainbow version and releasing merch to profit, it's acknowledgement, free stuff, and open support. However, despite this, there has been some controversy related to the event. Most notable is the 2021 AWA situation. Underneath the original Twitter post announcing the original Rainbow Royale event, a user named AWA expressed disappointment, and would also say that he was against the event since it promoted stuff that was against nature. Now, while people being homophobic online is nothing new and sadly nothing uncommon, this was notable as AWA was the creator of the creative map Pro 100, one of the most popular maps on Fortnite Creative at the time. In fact, it was so popular that it was officially featured by Epic in the Cosmic Summer Challenges earlier that year. Of course, these comments would receive massive backlash from the community, and soon after, Epic would take down the Pro 100 map and disable AWA's supported creator code, cutting off any money the map would have made. AWA would later make what was honestly a half-baked apology, basically saying that he only wanted to express his opinion and didn't realize that he would hurt anyone. He follows it up by saying that he was only following his religion but would try to be better in the future. After this apology, Epic would reinstate his maps and his code. This again would cause controversy. In terms of the apology itself, some people said that it was basically just, I'm sorry you got offended, which isn't actually taking accountability. Others said that he should be given a second chance, since at the time he was only 14 and was likely raised in a religious Middle Eastern or North African family, considering his comments and the fact that many of his map names are in Arabic, so he's likely just a product of his environment rather than an adult with its own opinions or perspectives. Regardless of the opinions surrounding AWA, a lot of people were mad at Epic themselves for reinstating and financially supporting an open homophobe during an event meant to support the LGBT community, showing that they didn't actually care about the support that much. To this day, the controversy is brought up as a criticism against Epic, but AWA is apparently doing well, still making maps that have thousands of players. Another controversy related to Rainbow Royale was in regards to the Harmony Lee skin. This was supposed to be released during Rainbow Royale 2023, but would not come out since the creator, Shy Not Fury, would face allegations of inappropriately messaging a 13-year-old. Shy Not Fury had the skin concept as well as a locker bundle coming out, but they would be scrapped for this reason. Later, the Harmony Lee skin would be removed from the files altogether. Flare Gun Foreshadowed. The flare gun was an item released in Chapter 2 Season 3. It had multiple uses. You could shoot it in the air, where it would explode and mark nearby players. If shot at a flammable object, it would set it on fire, and you could just shoot it at somebody for 60 explosive damage, which was personally my favorite way of using it. However, despite being introduced in Chapter 2 Season 3, many say it was teased much earlier. Remember when we talked about the block party earlier? Well, a short named Desert Island Flare was released during that event, showing a castaway Jonesy stranded on an island. He then sees a battle bus flying over him, and excited to be rescued, he shoots a flare gun in the air. Unfortunately, the flare hits the balloon of the battle bus and deflates it, causing the bus to crash into the ocean, killing all on board. He's still stranded, but at least he got that victory royale. While the flare gun in the short is not the same model as the one we got in-game, it's likely that the Epic devs were probably thinking of the idea even back in Chapter 1 Season 9. And the castaway Jonesy in the short was also foreshadowing, as he would become a skin in the game in Chapter 2 Season 3. And I guess the entire thing could have foreshadowed the flood theme of the season, but I find that a little harder to believe. Ostrich Weapon. In Season X, a glitch in creative revealed a new weapon, the Ostrich Weapon. This was a rare shotgun with the model of the epic and legendary shotguns of that season. It had a magazine size of 10 and dealt a base 50 damage. Initially, players who knew about this weapon were confused. Was it some sort of test gun? Was it a gun that would come to the game in the future? However, more astute players would realize the truth. This was a placeholder gun for the shotgun of the Brute. The Brute had a shotgun as one of its weapons, which also had a magazine size of 10 and dealt a base damage of 50. And considering the glitch used to obtain this weapon in creative involved using a Brute, it's likely that this was a placeholder test model for the Brute shotgun. Swing Set. In early Chapter 1, there were these swing sets you could find across the map. The swing sets had surprisingly interactive physics for the time, and would actually swing around if you jumped on it. However, you couldn't actually swing on it normally. If you jump on it, the hitboxes interacted pretty weirdly, and it resulted in this ragged movement. However, if you stayed on the swing long enough, there was a possibility for you to get permanently banned. Yeah, the weird movement caused by the swing would somehow trigger the anti-cheat. Perhaps the game thought you were speed hacking or fly hacking, and you would get permabanned for cheating. However, Epic would realize that these cases were false flags and not actually cheating, and would work to reverse the bans. They would also fix the bug, as the swing sets would be changed to no longer have physics. Flamethrower. In August 2018, a flamethrower would be leaked in the text files of patch 5.30. We didn't get to know much about it, other than the odd fact that it was classified as an LMG and would use medium ammo apparently. Discussion around the supposed flamethrower would continue. How overpowered would it be? Would it actually use medium ammo, or was that a placeholder? However, this discussion would be meaningless, as a flamethrower would never come to the game. Even later on in chapters 2 and forward, where stuff like fuel and fire spread, and fire itself would be added, we never got a flamethrower. I guess Epic just isn't interested anymore, or it's worried about how such a weapon would affect the meta. I would love to see one in the future though. Durburger Tomato Head Helmet. This is referring to the Food Fight LTM, a large team game mode where two sides, the Tomato Heads and Durburgers, would fight to defend their fort and attack the other team's fort. Within the forts were giant mascot heads the other team needed to destroy to win the game. The game mode itself was super fun and a fresh change of pace from regular Battle Royale, but we aren't here to talk about that. Interestingly, based on what team you were on, your skin would gain a mascot head as a sort of helmet, fitting over your actual skin's head. For the most part, this would seamlessly fit on every skin, giving everybody either a Tomato Head or a Durburger head. We haven't seen anything like this before or after this LTM, and many thought that the LTM was a test of sorts for a future helmet or hat cosmetic. Unfortunately, such a cosmetic type would never come to the game. Slow Grenade. The Slow Grenade was a throwable item which would create an area of effect around where it lands. Like the name suggests, the effect would be to literally slow down players in the area. This weapon was never released, but instead seemed to be a weapon in testing or developer weapon. Test God Gun. This is another developer test weapon that would never make it to the game. It would be disastrous if it was ever added, because the Test God Gun would literally one-shot everything, including structures, and had an effectively infinite range. Interestingly, this Test God Gun has a special rarity called the Impossible rarity. Cypher PK book. In this Iceberg series, we talked about several different books about the game, some from Epic, some unofficial ones, and some made by YouTubers or streamers. This entry isn't like those ones. There is no physical book, but rather a YouTube series by Cypher PK called How to Win. This was a series of videos starting in early Chapter 1 and continuing into Chapter 3. They were classified as educational commentaries, and would be Cypher narrating over gameplay, talking about tips and strategies he uses to be successful, and would later do more specific commentaries for a single aspect of the game. In Chapter 2 Season 5, Cypher PK started a Twitter campaign called Add the Book, where he urged Fortnite to add a book object in the game referencing his popular series. Epic obliged, and added an indestructible red book in the weather station, which was the main drop spot of Cypher that season. I'm sure they were glad to acknowledge Cypher, as back in those days when Fortnite BR was at its lowest in mainstream popularity, Cypher was one of the biggest, if not the biggest, YouTuber and streamer constantly making Fortnite content. Tesla Totems. This is another obscure, unreleased item from Chapter 1. It appears to be a smaller version of the Zapper Trap, except it was throwable and can be placed on any floor surface. There doesn't seem to be much information on this though. Wall Dynamo. Speaking of traps that electrocute you, we have the Wall Dynamo. This would be added in Chapter 1 Season 1 and removed in the same season, and would be similar to the trap of the same name from Save the World. It would deal damage to opponents like the Ceiling Zapper, but this would only be able to be placed on walls, not ceilings or floors. Once again, it was probably removed in favor of a spike trap that could be placed on any surface in order to declutter the loot pool. Smash logo at Steamy Stacks. If you look at the Steamy Stacks point of interest from above, the walkways going across the cooling towers would form a shape that looked like the logo of the Smash Bros. Game series. It does raise some eyebrows since it's a bit strange that the walkways would be off-centered like that. Consider that around this time, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate were adding a huge roster of video game characters to their game through its DLCs. Many people speculated that this was hinting at a character from Fortnite entering Super Smash Bros. Ultimate as a fighter. However, this would never happen. Another interesting tidbit is that in a building in Loot Lake in Chapter 1, There was also a shape similar to the Smash Bros. Logo that would be cast by light through a window, and people have speculated the same thing back then too. In the end, it's not like the Smash Bros. Logo is a particularly complex or unique shape, so people could end up making connections when there are none. Wreck-It Ralph. In Chapter 1 Season 6, an emote named Hot Marat would be added to the item shop where people could pick it up for free. The emote was based on a dance one of the characters performed in Ralph Breaks the Internet, making it technically the first Disney item shop collab. Additionally, at Risky Reels, the titular Wreck-It Ralph would periodically make a cameo on the screen. It's funny how Ralph Breaks the Internet out of all movies was one of the first movie collabs to be in the game. Fable cut off Dyer's tail. Dyer is a werewolf, but is noticeably missing a tail. Well, we see what happened to it if we look at the Fable skin. On her belt, she wears his tail as a trophy. However, this isn't the extent of her abuse of wolves. If you look at her glider, we see she seems to have baked wolf meat into a pie, topping it with another wolf tail. And in her Grim Fable variant, she seems to have skinned a wolf and is wearing his hide as a hood. Brutal, makes you wonder who the evil one really is here. Bushranger's death. Bushranger was a skin beloved by many. In Chapter 2 Season 7, he took it upon himself to raise one of the alien babies which he found abandoned. At this point in time, he was an NPC on the island, and he requested the player to help him prepare for the parasite to hatch. However, one day, players would try to approach Bushranger's typical hangout spot, only to find a freshly dug grave with flowers planted. Bushranger himself was nowhere to be seen. He had died. His cause of death was unknown, although many speculated the Aryan parasite he had cared for with so much love had turned on him and killed him. Players across the world mourned the loss of such a bright, vigorous, and kind soul. However, soon after, a tree would grow from the grave, and it would grow into a new Bushranger. He was reborn, literally growing out of his older, decomposed body. Everyone was glad to see he was back. Noah House. Holly House was a location in Chapter 2 Season 1 of Fortnite. Some players noticed that if you look down at the location from above, the path, hedges, fence, and house would spell the word Noah. Some people called it a coincidence, while others said it could be a reference to the racetrack from Chapter 1, which would spell out Gus, another name. However, there were some who thought that this was hinting at a potential flooding event or season theme, predicting that the dam on the map would break. While the dam didn't break, at the end of Chapter 2 Season 2, the map did end up flooding. So was Noah a reference to the biblical story of Noah and the flood, hinting at the flood which would come to Fortnite? I do believe so. It would be one massive coincidence if it wasn't. Willow's Bow. In Chapter 1 Season X, these posters would appear across the map. They seemed to be advertising some sort of horror movie called The Final Reckoning, but they were really advertising the Halloween skins that would come out later that year. In the poster featuring Willow, we see that she has a red bow in her hair. However, once the skin actually came out, the bow was nowhere to be seen. It's likely that we saw a last-minute design change occur right in front of our eyes. Peely is Jonesy. Yep, Peely is just another version of Jonesy. In a Block Party short, we see Jonesy approach a rift while eating a banana. He touches the rift and is sucked through, becoming fused with the banana he was eating in the process. And so, the weird banana-human hybrid, known as Peely, was born. He doesn't seem to be too bummed out about it, though. Oro is Midas. Another case of shared identity, we have the idea that Oro is actually Midas. However, this was never actually confirmed in-game. This is a long-standing theory that has been circulated since 2019, and there has been more evidence to support this theory since then. So first of all, both are referred to occasionally by the title of the Golden King. They both have the same exact scar over their right eye. In the various Midas skins we have seen, his tattoos, armor, and weapon holders have all shown designs that we see on the clothes of the Oro skin. Also, Oro's set is literally called Midas' Revenge. Like, we've got everything to confirm that they're both the same person, other than Epic just coming out and telling us that they are the same person. However, it is strange that Midas has been relevant in Fortnite for the past 5 years, getting multiple reskins and even events dedicated to him. And yet, Epic really hasn't done anything with his connection to Oro. Like, the dude's come back as a ghost twice at this point, even though Oro is supposed to be his undead form. Although, I guess maybe Midas split after his death. These reskins are his spirit, while Oro is the skeleton that his spirit left behind. Crystal is wearing a piece of Kevin. On the skin Crystal, you can see that she wears a gemstone around her neck. If you look closely, this stone looks similar to the material Kevin the Cube is made out of. A fun little detail. Equalizer Glider Nuke Warning. If you look at the model of the Equalizer Glider, you can see a faint detail. There's a decal with the radioactive symbol, alongside text that says, "Warning! Nuclear missile launched." Now, this is strange, since it's such an obscure detail that isn't meant to be seen by people using the glider, and it has nothing to do with the glider's design itself, as it's supposed to be themed around a musical rave. It's likely they just reused some other asset or texture that they already had the text on, and didn't bother to remove it. Misty Bop. This is the codename of a scrapped missile battery weapon meant to be introduced in Chapter 2 Season 2. This was apparently a type of rocket launcher specifically meant to be a counter to the choppers. It would lock onto them and fire. There was an unused achievement called Get Wrecked, which you would get for destroying a chopper with the weapon. There was also an audio file which would be used when locking onto a chopper. It's likely that this weapon would be reworked into the Anvil rocket launcher introduced in Chapter 3 Season 2. The function is quite similar, with the weapon being able to lock onto vehicles before firing a rocket at it. Big Poppy. This was another unused item in Fortnite. It was basically a throwable balloon that would inflate to a massive size from the point where it landed. It would destroy all structures in its path before popping. It's likely that Epic considered it too good of a counter to building, and as such did not add it. Midas's Golden Helmets. In Midas's animated character trailer, we see him turn the Black Knight helmet into gold and hanging it up on a wall alongside a bunch of other golden heads. This seems to be a trophy wall of sorts, consisting of heads of people he killed. What's interesting is that we see the helmets of Lynx and Chaos Agent up there, even though they both worked for him. I guess they could just be snapshots though. Save the World skin packs. From 2020 to now, there have been these Save the World starter packs being sold in the Battle Royale item shop. These packs would cost real-world money and would include a skin, backbling, pickaxe, as well as challenges to earn V-Bucks. Most notably, the pack would also include access to the Save the World game mode, and usually access to that skin as a hero in the game mode, and the challenges are meant to be completed in Save the World. There have been 16 of these packs, and while many people like the skins, they tend not to be that popular since people don't want to feel like they're paying extra for Save the World, even though they're technically paying less than they would for a legendary skin. But yeah, I'm pretty sure most people who care about Save the World have already bought it a while ago, and you can get access to it through Fortnite Crew. And unfortunately, you don't get a discount on these skin packs if you already own Save the World, since that discourages you from getting these packs, since they don't want to feel like they're paying for something that they already own. I think most people buying these packs are doing so for the skins instead of the Save the World stuff. Peter Griffin. If you're watching this video, you most likely already know that Peter Griffin was added to the game as a skin in the Chapter 5 Season 1 Battle Pass. After all, just that one collab went viral across the internet. However, what most people don't know is the history about this collaboration, which is a saga that lasted literal years. In February of 2021, a data miner named G-Matrix Games posted this on Twitter. These were apparently textures for a backbling codenamed French Fry. This texture was frankly quite bizarre. Like, why would textures for a Fortnite backbling include a bunch of frames from different Family Guy scenes? Some people claim that this meant a Family Guy collab was coming, while others, including myself, believe that these were just placeholder or test assets and were not meant to be used in the final game. However, one way or another, Peter Griffin was in Fortnite now, and that knowledge, alongside the meme factor of Peter Griffin potentially becoming a Fortnite skin, turned the idea of a Family Guy collab into an inside joke within the community. For the next few years, when every update came out, and when every Battle Pass was leaked, a lot of people were secretly hoping that they'd finally see that Peter Griffin skin. Well, these hopes would be answered when the Chapter 5 Season 1 Battle Pass was leaked, showing a strangely buff Peter Griffin, and we finally got the skin with the release of the season, alongside an animated short in a similar style to the show, which showed how Peter got so buff. Oh yeah, and those leaked textures I talked about? Well, they actually made it to the final game, in the clip show carry-all backbling. This was a backbling in the Battle Pass that was a TV that would show some clips from the show, using some of the textures that were leaked way back in 2021. It all comes full circle. Truly one of the most legendary collabs in the game. Fortnite bot skins. Now, Fortnite bots technically use random cosmetics as far as we officially know. However, over the years, people have noticed that bots across matches tend to use the same combos of cosmetics. Like, these are just random cosmetics that don't really go together, and yet you seem to see a bunch of different players using that exact same combo in every match you're in. These are the bot skins. They tend to change every season, but some have become iconic based on how common they were. By far the most famous was the legendary Ripley bot, which you could identify as a player using the base Ripley skin with the Hulk Fist pickaxe and Pineapple Strummer backbling. This was such a common bot combo back in the day that it became a meme in the Fortnite community, with many people almost adoring him and treating him as some sort of cute pet as they came across him in-game, taking screenshot selfies. It's fun seeing community in-jokes form around stuff like this. Something that's also interesting is the fact that since bots have random access to all cosmetics, they sometimes use combos or cosmetics that are unavailable to the player. For example, bots can use cape backblings and skins that don't allow capes to be used. Or in this one humorous example, we see a bot using the Axe of Champions pickaxe, an axe that you can only get by winning the FNCS championships, meaning that less than 20 accounts even have this pickaxe. And then you come across this bot using it. Who are we to judge though? Maybe this bot won the FNCS. Fortnite items IRL. This is just a joke where people see a normal object in real life and say, oh, it's just like Fortnite. Like they'd see a metal barrel and be like, oh, it's the slurp keg from Fortnite. It's basically the meme where some kid says Darth Vader and calls him the guy from Fortnite, just taken to the next level. Snobby Shores Pirates. This is mostly about discussion back in the lead up to Chapter 1 Season 5. Apparently the same guy who correctly predicted the meteor would hit Dusty also predicted that in Season 5 pirates would invade Snobby Shores and Moisty Mire would be removed. People latched onto this prediction, and it would lead to some people claiming that they saw pirate ships on the horizon while looking out from Snobby Shores. Of course, they were just seeing things, as there were no pirate ships. However, the original predictor would turn out to be right in a way. Moisty Mire did get removed and replaced with Paradise Palms in Season 5, and while pirates didn't attack Snobby, Vikings did make a village on a nearby mountain and start an invasion of Snobby, which I guess they're close enough to pirates. Party Royale emotes. These are emotes exclusive to the Party Royale game mode. They weren't dance moves, but rather emotes that perform casual actions or facilitate nonverbal communication. Considering Party Royale was meant to be more of a casual, social game mode, and that Fortnite has no plans to add in proximity chat, these emotes are a compromise to make communication between players easier. Interspecies relationships. This is referring to the romance we see between the Leviathan and Jungle Scout skins in some loading screens. Jungle Scout is a normal human, while Leviathan is just a normal-sized fish piloting a spacesuit using water. However, this doesn't hinder the love they have for each other. Some Shape of Water type stuff is going on here. And well, that is it for layer 4 of this Fortnite iceberg. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll try to get the next parts out fast. We are nearing the end of the iceberg, and I'm so glad that we were able to cover so much. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and if you're buying stuff from the item shop, please use my supporter creator code, RIVETCHA. I'll see you guys next time.